I am Roy Collin, the host of the podcast. You can find everything about me by scanning the QR code there or going to roycollin.com, and you'll find my 6 podcasts: the Podfather, helping people become podcasters; the Awakening, exposing fraud and corruption but with solutions; the Crypto, all things blockchain technology; meditation podcast, speaking podcast, and the Learn Polish podcast. You can also help the show by actually making a donation, visiting the store, or helping my sponsors. I hope you enjoyed this week's show. Welcome to the Meditation Podcast. You can find all our episodes on meditationpodcast.org. My guest is the founder of Effiji Breath, sharing his work with tens of thousands of people for 30 plus years. It's a unique method of guiding people through Effiji Breathwork and Sacred Taoist Movement to reveal the trauma code that unlocks the map to one's life's purpose. He's also the author of 3 books: The Trauma Code, which I have read and I thoroughly enjoyed, very good book, and it's The Trauma Code, Uncover the Hidden Map to Your Life's True Purpose, and A Liberated Life, Effiji Breathwork, and the Process of Freeing Your Mind, and What's in Your Roots, Making the Unconscious Conscious. Please welcome Eliza Nisenboim.
Very good. I mean, if you take away the Irish accent, it would have been perfect. It's first of all, it's Nisenboim, but Effiji Breathwork.
Yeah. Effiji is how you pronounce it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone gets it wrong.
Okay, so I mean, look, I'm interested in breathwork. I've kind of worked with a lot of facilitators, but I want to kind of learn a little bit more about yourself. I know that you mentioned, and even in the book, it was about the mother on the Polish side. So even though I'm Irish, living in Poland, you might let me know about your kind of family roots.
Yeah. I wrote about that in my book. I wrote to you about it, about being happy.
No, it was actually in the book. It's about the piano.
It's interesting. I don't remember. Well, my parents, it's very interesting. My father's side was from what I thought was Russia, but just recently my brother's doing a family genealogy, and I found out that my grandfather was from Moldova and my grandmother was from Odessa, and they escaped in the 1920s, Jews, during, they had pogroms and stuff. And my mother's side from Poland, so they came to Canada, and that's where my parents met. So I grew up in Toronto, Canada, and in a kind of a seemingly average middle-class Jewish family. But I was definitely a different kid, like very sensitive. I could just read everything. And I was in a very normal environment, and I was not that particularly normal. And I was in love with music. I wanted to be a musician, which is what I ended up doing into my 20s. But halfway through, I was, as I wrote in my book, I was playing in a piano bar, an Irish piano bar. The lady was Irish, and I was playing, all the sing-along hits to the pub drinkers. And there was a massage place next door, and I went next door because I was getting kind of beat up, and I made friends with beat up playing, not beat up. And the lady there and I became friends, and she was moving to California with her husband and asked me if I would help them put stuff in storage to try this breathwork thing that he did. He was Osho sannyasin, Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, in the 70s, and he had learned this breathwork technique there. So he did that breathwork technique, and it just knocked me out of it just blew me away. And he went to San Francisco, had a training. I came out here to the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and fell in love with it and just wanted to move here. And then eventually followed him out here, lived here, ran his enterprise for 10 years, and then struck out on my own about 25 years ago.
And with his breathwork then, did you kind of, because I mean, there's so many, there's so many, did you kind of create your own based on, I mean, you obviously, so what was the difference between his?
Of course, I wish I could have a a copyright on breathing, and then I could just make it. Make my every time someone takes a breath, I get two
Trust me, if the government could do that, they would.
Yeah, they probably already are. Well, breath work. I say it this way: the term is generic. It's breath and work. All of our internal organs are unconscious. You can't control them. They're like the animal within us. But the lungs are the one organ that you can both manually operate, or it can operate automatically. And the ability to choose to breathe, that's what breath work is. It's just consciously taking a breath. So if you have through the nose, through the mouth, the left side, the right side, breath retention, you basically have every breath work practice that exists. And they all kind of have different values and purpose. I mean, the first most important thing is that breath gives life. So it is the most powerful thing that you have to live. And when you take a breath in, you're taking in the life force of the universe. So it has the power to give you life, to take you into the unseen inner world inside yourself, into your unconscious. If anything, it just makes you more aware. I mean, just even right now for breathing, you start to breathe, you're like, oh, there's an outer world, there's an inner world. There's an inhale and an exhale. So all breath work kind of does that, but my particular technique it's loosely based on what my teacher did in India. That it's mouth breathing. 5,000 years old is sort of where it comes from. And this particular family of breathing, like breathing through your mouth, is meant to, I call it the garbage collector, because it's really, really super powerful and rigorous. It's not subtle and new age. Like if you do it, and we could do a little bit if you want to do like 10 breaths with me, we could show the people. It's really, really powerful to take you to your unconscious and release stuck, blocked energy. In the 10 years that I was here with my teacher, I owned a center in San Francisco, and I had people come in from all these other techniques. I mean, breathwork is still not hugely mainstream, but it more is. But in the 1990s, not at all. So I tried every technique. I experimented, even though, like the yogis say, pranayama, it's very dangerous, be careful. I did all that. And I ended up branding my own technique. So, which is just, if anything, it's as much as it's the technique, it's the philosophy behind it and how we do it and why. So I mean, like, because there's a lot of people are watching on Spotify, YouTube, pictures, Rumble. So you said do 10 breaths. So yeah, before we delve in deeper, why not? Why not? To me, first of all, before we got on the call, we were having a few laughs together, whatever. Like real human things are what people need. So I don't mind. I love talking about my work, but if people can just experience this will be great. So I'm going to turn on my original sound, so that you can hear me breathing. So you may want to mute just because otherwise it ends up with an echo, is what I find in my class. So what we're going to do is, and if people are just hearing it, if you put your hand in the center of your chest, the heart center basically, around your sternum, and you're going to be breathing right there through your mouth, focused on the inhale. So it's three things. It's inhale, meaning the inhale is really strong, and the exhale, just let go. It's the mouth, and it's the center of the chest. And there's a rhythm to it. If you're a musician, it's about 85 beats per minute. So we're just going to do 10 breaths. So you open your mouth about 2 fingers wide, and I'll lead it. So here we go. And then just let that go. You can close your eyes for a second, and I'll just talk a little while you feel that. You want to be really relaxed. We're not using our jaw or our throat. And you can feel energy just starting to move, a little dizzy maybe. But in my technique, we do that for 1 hour without stopping. So now we can begin the conversation, because, for 35 years, like the look in your eyes, we did 10 breaths, and I can see the look in your eyes, like it affected you, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, like I know the benefits of breath work, and irrespective
You've
of
done breath work.
I've done, I mean, because I've done the Wim Hof one, I've done the Soma Breath. There was a load of different ones. I don't even forget half of them. But basically, it was when I went to AFES, which is the Mind Valley thing. I was going to different events. I think it was like 2016 was the first time. So when you said 1990, when I was reading, I was like, ooh, that's a long time ago. Because, I mean, as you say, it's kind of more mainstream now. But yet, as much
I've probably done more breath work than anybody on the planet. I mean, on myself and on others. I mean, So, sorry, you were going to say?
Like, even though it kind of is picking up, it's like, I can't really find it here, like in Poland. It would be brilliant if it could be everywhere, like you go to a yoga class, because at the end of the day, I have seen, like, you've got the book's called The Trauma Code. Like, at the end of the day, the benefits that it gives, it would be fantastic that if it was everywhere. And I mean, the reality is the medical system or the health insurance should be pushing this, because they'd have less people claiming.
Yeah, but then they wouldn't be making as much money. As they say, if a hotel has, they make money by filling the beds, right? So if you don't go to the hotel, they don't make money. So it's sort of the same with hospitals. But anyway, well, you're right in my wheelhouse of interest. For one, I had a vision about 30 years ago. I saw myself at Madison Square Gardens in New York, breathing 10,000 people, and there was a live band. And I forgot about it, but as breathwork has sort of come to the mainstream, I remembered, and I feel like yoga was the new Christian church. There was like a church on every block. Everybody was being ordained. Everybody was doing yoga. It was like, it was just this proselytization of yoga. That time is sort of past, but I feel like breathwork is so democratic. It's so straightforward, because you don't have to believe anything. You don't have to be healthy. You don't have to know anything spiritually or anything like that. If you breathe full, because breath is life, breath is God, really, you will have a very powerful experience, and it will clear away the things that separate you from who you really are. And I feel like my interest, even just to be on your podcast and other podcasts, because I'm already an old guy, like I'm doing this because I feel like this is what the world needs, particularly at this time, something that's just so simple that you can do that transcends all these other things, like even Wim Hof, which I deeply respect him and his journey, but the technique requires a certain, like you breathe a certain amount in, certain amount, you have to think a lot to do it. And it's about a kind of a mastery. It's more about life hack in the way, about being like master over mind and body. But I see this, like if you breathe in my technique for 1 hour without stopping, it's humbling. Like it takes you to where the deepest traumas and pains are. And to me, that's the real courage we need in this life. It's not to, there's this documentary, I don't know if you've seen it, called El Capitan. El Capitan's in Northern California. It's this huge mountain face, and this guy climbed it. The movie's called Free Solo. He climbed the side of a mountain without any, equipment. But the funny thing about the documentary is he couldn't keep a girlfriend. Like, he was so afraid of intimacy, he couldn't have a relationship, but he could climb the side of a mountain, no problem. And I feel like people, the most powerful thing is to be able to feel whatever you feel in the moment, and to not be in any resistance. And that's done by being able to face and release trauma. So that's sort of, yeah.
And because
obviously, you know, like Wim Hof and there's other ones.
Yeah.
But what I have witnessed is lots of times people go, oh, but my nose is blocked. And sometimes it's block one nose, do it up to the other and the others. And you don't have that issue when you do
For the viewers, he looks like he's doing cocaine right now. Just want to say.
I wouldn't know.
Go on.
Yeah, so it's like basically sometimes people, you know, especially if you're in a group, there's always a percentage that have a nose, one nostril that's blocked, and that then affects that breathing system that the facilitator is using. Whereas you never have somebody saying, "Oh, my throat is blocked," because everyone is through their mouth.
Well, the purpose of this practice isn't. It's not like it's not necessarily a daily spiritual practice. Like if you have first of all, left side is feminine, right side is masculine. They apply different times a day, like all the different techniques. There is a science to it. And if you practice any breathwork technique, it's great for your health because breath is life. But my technique isn't something that you're trying to master, like opening your throat. It's just that the injuries of life are in the center of the chest. They're in the heart. And this is part of my discovery. One of the things I do, probably read about in the book, is like I teach movement, Taoist movement that I use in my system. I was in China. I've been there more than 20 times, studied with different masters. So my last teacher gave me this manual from the 1500s, and he asked me if I would translate it and then try to publish it. But the opening line of it is, the center of the chest is the infinite ocean of chi. It was the opening line of this book about martial arts. And it was like, wow. And I'm doing a breathwork technique that's right there. So when you breathe into that thing, the reason why we're doing that, the throat, is to get like from head to heart, to open this channel so that the heart is infinite. The mind is not infinite. To really have your clarity and your mind be governed by your heart. Most people are governed by trauma, so they live in the programming in their mind. And they don't breathe. Like just in general, you can just watch people just don't breathe. So my technique isn't necessarily about how to breathe better, how to open, like all those things can happen. Mine is just clear the shit. That's its purpose.
You mentioned, so are you doing the movement first and that's all part of the hour, or is it pure breathing for an hour and then you just kind of close your eyes and just enjoy?
It's two different things. The books that I wrote really is a kind of a culmination of my journey with myself, but working with people, in that there's sort of two steps to trauma release, to fulfilling your life purpose. One is you have to clear the blocked energy. Like you're an original configuration when you're born, like an acorn that wants to be an oak tree. And then when you have trauma, that energy of who you are gets locked up. And then the trajectory of your life changes. You can't fulfill what you're meant to fulfill. So the first thing is you've got to open your energy back up from trauma. And trauma just means anything unresolved. It doesn't necessarily have to be like abuse or living in a war zone or something. It could be you were in your crib for an extra 5 minutes and you thought you were going to die or something. Who knows? But anything that's locked up, we want to release that and reconnect you to who you really are. But what I noticed over the years, and I think also just getting older myself, is that there's realization. There's the spirituality of knowing yourself, but then there's the manifestation, the actualization, the ability to live who you really are out in the world. And that's a more complex thing to work on, because you can clear, and something I noticed with tens of thousands of people, is that people can have these incredible awakenings and healings, but it doesn't mean you're going to go live your life correctly, because your body is in all these different kinds of habit patterns that that make it hard for you to move toward what it is that you want to be correct. So I use this internal martial arts is based on Taoism. Taoism is the natural world. It's elements, physics, and animals. And these movements are to train you to be authentic. And so my system, secondarily, like people can come and do breath work, but if they end up in a program and they're working on fulfilling their life purpose, then I use movement to retrain the body and mind. So that, does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And like when you're kind of doing a group setting, because sometimes people release the trauma and they react differently. Like I've been in sessions where people just screaming their head off and just curling up in a ball. And like I mentioned it on one of the shows to somebody, because I was saying I can never go deep when I have that because it just throws me off. And they said, oh, you should embrace it as the group and everything. But I can't. Yeah. And it's like, it's like a crying baby. Sometimes you can kind of, get. So you curious when you have a group setting, what way to deal?
Yeah. I mean, like, you're bringing up all the good points today. So if you, part of, the nature of trauma is to protect you from the pain. Like the nature of the effect of trauma is that your mind is always searching for threats. So if you have part of you when you're, and I'm just saying specifically to you, like if you're in the group and other people around are emoting like crazy, you might be like, why is he having that experience and I'm not? Or I don't feel safe or whatever. So some part of your internal mechanism is saying, this is not a good place for me to open up. So you won't. So what I do say it in the trauma code, but I wrote a whole chapter about this in my last book. Like the facilitator in Effiji Breathwork is really important. In other techniques, Wim Hof doesn't pound, he's more the cold plunge and the life hacking kind of thing. Like breathwork isn't like the main focus. But if you take holotropic breathwork, do you know what that is? He was
like I've heard of it, but I forget.
Yeah. Well, they train people. Leave people be. Don't get involved. There's two things. If you and I have a relationship, which is the most powerful thing, like we got on the call, we were making some jokes together. There's nothing more powerful than the human engine and the human heart, and two people come together with shared intention. In fact, it's kind of something we're struggling with as a society, particularly since the pandemic. So if I can hold space for you and you trust me, you will be able to go into the subjective world of whatever the reason is you don't want to let go. So the facilitator's job in the breathwork is to create an environment where you will go to the deepest, most powerful place. And so many people have told me exactly what you've told me. I mean, I've been doing groups right from the very beginning. And yes, it can be very dramatic and emotional and chaotic. My job is to understand as best I can what's going on in your inner world and what's the way through. And sometimes it's impossible. I did this breath, probably one of the biggest ones I ever did in 2018. There was 100 people. And there was a woman trying to hide in the back or whatever. And I went over to put my hand on her shoulder and she just screamed at me. And she was like, I can't do this with all these people around or whatever. And I found out after, she had sex abuse. And for her, it was just a replaying of a violation. In that case, it's like, you can't, it's not going to work in a group for someone like that. But for one, I've done lots of private, sometimes, the most powerful work is always individual, but group work has, if you can get comfortable with that and recognize that you're getting triggered, like in your case that, oh, this is triggering me. What I'm triggered by is what I'm trying to clear. And then let's say I encourage you to breathe into that, you would release it. And that would be the end of your fear of it. And you would go back out in your life. And then these places where maybe you get thrown off. I mean, we all get thrown off, right, by the world in some ways, but places you normally get thrown off, all of a sudden your center would be super solid and you wouldn't be bothered anymore.
Like, I thoroughly agree with you that, with people that, they've been abused or whatever, they should kind of have kind of one-on-one sessions. But what happens a lot of the time is it was like, it's so deep that it's like the brain switch, they didn't even realize it till they're going through this experience. And, that's the thing.
Are you saying people, when they're breathing, they don't realize what's there?
They don't realize they were abused. Yeah. It's during the process. So while they're in the group, they just think it's a normal side. And I've seen a few people like that, because people start talking, and we have a safe group into different places, especially at the event that I go to. You feel safe there.
Yeah. Well, for one, when people have that kind of experience, often they don't even know they're in a memory. They think it's happening in that moment. So, but that's not necessarily the norm. You're more the norm. Like, kind of, not that you're normal. You don't seem normal to me at all. No, it's more the garden variety resistance that people have to taking risks where it really matters to their future. Like, it's more subtle. So if you came into a class and all these things were going on and you just felt like you didn't really want to go deeper, that's really powerful. It's people that you think the more dramatic thing is someone screaming and yelling, but it kind of isn't. It's more the subtlety of what limits us. And that's, for me, because I've been doing it so long, like, I can read that stuff very quickly. So I don't know if you're anywhere near Holland. I'm going to be in Holland in November, December. I actually had to look it up in the map. It's so almost American of me. He was the Netherlands, and I found out Holland and the Netherlands is the same thing. Anyway, but if I met you and you came in, I would already be tuning into why you're there and what you're about. And then I would try to guide you specifically to where the action is, to where the opportunity is for transformation. But if somebody isn't bringing something specific forward, like what you just did, if they just lay down and do the technique, it'll be powerful no matter what. I mean, you probably had a powerful experience, even if you didn't go all the way.
Well, with me, I've had very powerful experiences, and then I look forward to it, and then I can't go deeper because of the person that's, just very near.
But it's not the person, it's you.
Yeah.
Like, that's forgive me, and if I'm reading too deeply or you disagree, just tell me to shut up. So when I said I have two parts to my work, there's spiritual realization and actualization. We live on two planes. In the vertical plane, it's our inner world, it's our connection between earth and spirit, and then we live on a horizontal plane between us and the world. The two things we lose when we have trauma are being grounded, meaning losing our sense connection to the earth or connection to spirit, or losing our center, which is we go out in the world and then the world takes us over. So when you, just by virtue of saying, oh, what this person's doing, you're thinking that your power is out there because of this person. But if everything is your opportunity to be grounded and centered and fulfill, like expand out into the life that you're meant to live, then you probably have some trauma, some pattern around losing your center to something outside of yourself, and your mind has trained yourself to believe that the problem is out there. So I would be like, oh, this is great. I would have that guy lie closer to you during the breathwork and just see how far we could go, because if you were willing to breathe into that, you'd realize there, forgive me for being being esoteric. I don't know how your audience feels, but you're the creator of your reality. We believe things are out there, but they're not. Everything is within, ultimately. If you close your eyes, all of your senses are internal. Only the eyes see outside of oneself. So I'm always interested in what people think is the reality. So if you told me that, I'd be like, oh, let's get your power back. Let's get your power back from every single thing, every conflict you've ever had where you felt like somebody took something from you. And then you'd be a free man.
No, excellent. Well, I know that I've done that with a lot of things, but I've never thought of it during that, and I love that. So if I have the experience again, it's brilliant.
That's why I'm saying the facilitator is so important, because you can only take someone on a journey as far as you've gone. So if I just left you there to breathe, you'd be in charge of it and you wouldn't go. So, if I have 100 people, it's a different story. But if I have 8, 10, even 25 people, I'll be able to track everybody and give them something to help them to breathe into the resistance, because that sense of what you're talking about with the person next to you, that's just resistance. That's all it is. But the value of our relationship is if I can say to you, hey, it's just resistance and breathe, then because I can't do the breath work, that what's empowering about it is you do it. So if you breathe, and it's not like plant medicine, you're not like taking something, but if you breathe and then it changes, you're going to feel so empowered because you did it. And my job, I can't do the breath, but I can definitely point. And that's the facilitator's role. I mean, sometimes I do it through music, sometimes I do it through touch. Like every person, men, women, different, everybody's different, needs something different.
The other one then is, because when I've done various ones, at times I see colorful visualization. I get beautiful feelings from it. And it's something that actually was mentioned in the book, but I've seen it as well. Like people would say an addictive personality. I think it was the person who was into alcohol and then got into this was my kind of thing. So you might touch on that, because I think that's important as well.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to get addicted to the breath work because it's so difficult to do. I mean, the breath work's easy. It's us that's difficult. But breathing for an hour, and this is sort of the guts of my particular brand, is that if you don't stop for the hour, the mind cannot keep control, and you will take that journey. But mostly everybody has some resistance, and it's hard for them to do the breath for that full hour. So generally people aren't like, I want to do tons of this, because they're more like, oh God, we got to do the breath today, or do I really want to do this again? There's always a bit of an excitement and a bit of a dread, because if it's going to work, that part of your programming that doesn't want to die is going to tell you don't do it. But occasionally, the more when somebody who has serious addictions, they often love it because it gives them this place to be so intoxicated and intense. And that's a good, I was told by a therapist, when addicts stop, whatever their addiction is, they usually transfer it onto something else. I'm only going to eat organic food or whatever, or I'm going to work at the veterinary shelter or something. But if you transfer it onto the breath work, for a while it will be really, really powerful. But ultimately, addiction is controversial statement coming. Addiction to me, forget about clinical names for it, but just say the addiction to me is the soothing of the outside, soothing of the inside with something on the outside, and then succeeding authority. It's a choice. Addiction to me is a choice to give your authority to something outside of yourself to soothe something on the inside. So to me, this is, even if it's in your DNA, like to have alcoholism in your family, or to be born Irish, I'm just kidding. You can change that programming, and you can definitely change it through breathwork, because I have worked with many, many, many people with really profound addictions, And it's once you learn the process of taking care of that, people who are addicts are usually very passionate people with very intense life purposes, that if they don't live those life purposes, they're going to end up succeeding the authority to something like drugs and alcohol or food or sex or whatever it is. So what I wanted to help someone with is to get in touch with that incredible impulse and harness it in a different way, and realize that every moment there's a choice. And I'm not telling people don't worry about it, but like if you're a recovering alcoholic, don't rent an apartment next to a bar like just after you stop. Like there's obviously practical things about addiction and physiological stuff, but it is ultimately you're choosing to do something to take care of something on the inside. And yeah.
And with, like, say, plant medicine then, because I've kind of seen that as well with the different events. You come across people and they've done it 10 plus times. And, like, say, ayahuasca, I hadn't done ayahuasca. I done DMT once. I felt like we were all connected. We were all one. That was it. Never need to do it again. And I'm just curious, what's your thoughts on it? What experience?
Yeah. Well, for one, I would say, I'm not for or against anything. Like everything is a choice. And like in your case of your DMT experience, it opened something up and it showed you something. But you took the drug to take you on a journey to show you something. That's not ultimately empowering. With the breath work, you have to do it. So if you don't do it, like you're laying next to that guy and you don't keep breathing, nothing happens. You keep breathing and something happens, you're going to feel like, oh, wow, I'm so powerful. I transform myself. I think my experience, because I'm in Northern California, and I travel across the states, a lot of people do plant medicine, particularly ayahuasca. I think that controversial statement coming that people will integrate their experiences on plant medicine according to where their consciousness is at the time, like how much work they've done on themselves. So I often see people come to the breath work. Well, two things. People come to the breath work and tell me that it's exactly like ayahuasca without the drugs. I've heard that so many times. But secondly, I will smell and feel the ayahuasca stuck in the cells of the body. When they're breathing, it comes out. And to me, it's because it's not integrated. It's like they do this drug, but they haven't developed themselves in order to sort of learn how to integrate it, and it remains sort of stuck in the body. And then they come to the breath work and it all starts kind of coming out because it hasn't processed itself. So I feel like if you want to do psychedelics, plant medicine, sure, but it is like anything like that, there's the law of diminishing returns. The more you do it, the less clear you become. Like it's the same way if you know any like weed smokers, like the more you smoke, the clearer you think you are and the less clear you actually are.
Like people say it's not addictive. I mean, I don't like it. It's not my thing. But I've seen people, they do it and they get slow. They think this is brilliant. And you can see the effect it's having on the fact that I don't take it myself. Like, I think somebody that's taking it mildly or not as regular wouldn't see it, but the person that's not can see it.
I think there's a big difference between weed and ayahuasca, and weed smokers and plant medicine users. Plant medicine users I meet are very religious about what they do, and they are searching for like a hack to their potential. But they are choosing to do these ceremonies and let the medicine, which they call the teacher, like work on them. And I think there's a law of diminishing returns to that because that's just my experience, but I don't begrudge anybody doing it. But weed smokers, and here, you can get a medical marijuana card. I live in California. My son has one, and I told him I liked it when it was illegal. But anyway, weed is a very mental drug. It's makes you think that you are chill, that everything is really good. And it seemingly takes away a certain process of the mind, the mind living in anxiety, like worrying about stuff and all that. But it kind of thins out your aura, and then it makes you more vulnerable. So when you stop smoking, you're more thinned out, and you're more up in your mind. It really puts people up in the mind and makes them very almost delusional. So, but I don't know.
It's kind of like the story you said about me with the other person, because I see people as I need it for my anxiety, and I know somebody takes it a lot. And it's basically saying, "Oh, I need this," but yet they're the most in any kind of traffic situation or any kind of encounter.
Yeah,
they're so aggressive. So it's like instead of embracing when there's pain there or something, go through it, they've numbed it. But then when they don't have it, they explode.
Yeah. Well, you really want to know where people are at. Watch them driving or talking to tech support. And then you know how people are in their life. And you're making the point I was making earlier, which is it's one thing to have a beautiful awakening, and whether it's plant medicine or breath work or meditation or whatever. It's another thing to go and live your life. To live your life is a process, and it's not about being perfect. It's about a way to be able to have a relationship with what's going on with you in every single moment. And generally, we live in resistance because we have fears because of trauma. So we're often trying to control and manage everything around us so that we won't have to feel. But if you are willing to be in the depths of your feeling, then you doesn't matter. My spiritual practice, I live 2 miles from the highway, and I'm speaking in American terms, but it's 25 miles per hour, which seems really slow to me. It's two lanes, and I've lived here for 15 years. So, I like to drive fast, and I'm from the East Coast. Anyway, so I've been going up and down that road for 14 years and wanting to murder anybody who goes goes 10 miles over the speed limit. Anybody under 10 miles or the speed limit makes me angry. And ultimately became my spiritual practice is like just watching what triggers me. Instead of being angry, I want to work with my process. And in the same way, when you're laying down in the breath, if the facilitator knew, and we're not blaming the facilitator, but if I was there with you, I would say, look at this opportunity you have with this guy and if we have that, then it makes life just so much easier than what we are doing, which is just trying to get ultimately we're all addicts because we're all trying to use the outside to make the inside feel better. Like if people would just speed up, I'd be happier. It's my addiction. Yeah. It took me a few speeding tickets early on to make me realize that I probably just need to learn to go slow.
Trauma release, the 4 effects. You might just kind of touch on that.
Yeah. 4 effects of trauma. Well, I'll say the 2 biggest ones are, I said in the book compartmentalization. You put your feelings away, but I'll simplify. One's in the mind, one's in the heart. In the masculine linear side, our perception changes. We look through a lens, an invisible lens that we don't know we're looking through, and then we interpret reality different than what it is. So that's obviously huge, because if I assume that, I get on the call and Roy's out to get me, or whatever. Like if I have an abandonment issue, maybe I think everyone's going to abandon me. So perception and interpretation is one part, the way you see life, and then every thing after that, all your choices. And the other is feeling. We're feeling averse. We don't want to feel. We don't want to feel our feelings. So we live in this kind of craving and aversion. Like I only want the fast drivers, not the slow drivers. I want chocolate. I don't want vanilla, whatever it is. Like we don't want to have any feeling that comes near the area of that trauma. So we end up sort of living a very limited life because we see things wrong and we don't want to feel our feelings. And last thing I'll say, you were talking about anxiety earlier. I define anxiety in my book as a state. It's not an emotion. It's a mental state. It's a belief where you overestimate the threat and you underestimate your ability to meet that threat. So if you have trauma and you were told you were stupid or, you were never good enough or whatever it was, and then you grow up and you start to look through this lens of anxiety, you believe everything out there has more power over you than you have the tools to meet it. But that's just the mind. Underneath that is all this energy of who you really are. And if you can come in contact with that energy, you don't have to listen to that. You don't have to live in that world. And that's why, sorry to keep going back to the example, the only one you gave me, lying next to the guy who's doing some crazy thing in the breath work, is that somewhere inside you think you can't handle whatever would come up for you if you just opened up to your own experience. That's a program, and it comes from trauma. And if we could break that program, then you wouldn't give a shit about anything. There would be no more anxiety or worry ever again. What there will be, because I'm not saying I'm not perfect. Just ask my ex-wives. What I have is a relationship with myself that I didn't have before, where that thing, like train tracks, that's built in me to be anxious, to think there's a problem where there isn't. I have an ability to stop myself from building the train, putting it on the track, and sending it down the track. So trauma release is to release the energy, but we don't necessarily pull up all the train tracks. We still can have these triggers and these things, but the way we deal with them is completely different. There's some part of us that practices acceptance.
You talk about like ex-wives, and I have an ex-wife as well. And it was somebody who was on the show, and it was kind of the same thing that, not to put blame, even though no matter what's going on, because you're giving the power away, and a lot of people fall victim of that one.
Well, the hardest chapter in the book to get through, I don't know how you did with it, on states and behaviors. I kind of take all these words and I pull them apart, but blame, anxiety is one, worry, but I think I had anxiety, worry, and blame together. So blame, it's a real word. If you look up in the dictionary, it means to hold accountable. So blame is a real thing. It's not like there's no such thing as blame, but if I automatically go to blame you, then it's probably an avoidance of what I'm feeling. Or if I automatically go to blame me, like people do one or the other, I think that there's a place for holding accountable after you've really actually held yourself accountable. Because if I am in resistance to what's really going on with me, and then I'm going to magnetize myself to a relationship that's going to mirror that. And then when you, as the person that I'm in relationship with, play that out for me, I'll think that oh my God, every time, like, all women are blah, 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 or whatever, and I will blame this person for that. But I'm not seeing that it's all coming out of me because I created this situation to see a part of myself I couldn't see. Most people don't start with, how did I create this? Why do I need to have this experience? What is this mirroring about who I am? When you can do that, then it's much easier to look at another person and know what they're accountable for. My experience, and it's just me, is that I just generally find it's very, very, very rare that I actually need to hold somebody else accountable. If I did, it's probably, first of all, I'll acknowledge I made some mistake to get us there. And secondly, like I have a business partner. We've been together 12 years, she and I, and like we fight every now and again. Like I'll do that with her because we have this incredible trust and we're on the same side, and we know at the end of the day that we both want to take responsibility for our creation, and we're there to learn. So even if we fight, there's a part of us and blame and hold each other accountable. We both have the same goal at the end, but that's rare, I think. Yeah.
In the book, there's like lots of pictures of an animal with an explanation of the different animals. So let people know what's that about.
Yeah. Originally wrote the book, it was 3 times longer. It had all the information about my system for movement. It's called the four levels of the mind and the 4 regions of the self. And I took it all out because I wanted that book to get you to get something out of it without coming and doing my work. And you can't really learn my work, that part of my work, without me. But and I just finished just last week this follow-up. But what I say is that there's 8 functions. You have 4. There's not one mind. We think of the mind, like inner dialogue, thoughts, as I call that the linear level, which is the one that society trains us for. It's like you go to school, you learn skills, you see logical processes, sequences, and then society rewards you and gives you, you're a good boy, you get a cookie, and you get money or whatever for being able to use your linear mind. But I say there's 4 minds, and level 1 is the animal mind, just the body mind, which has its own, I call it a mind because your body thinks it through sensation. So there's animal mind, linear mind, energetic mind, and visionary level of mind. And I say that all of these can be trained. So after you clear trauma, if you have an intention, a vision for yourself, that's the visionary level. And the visionary level is being able to see something that exists before it exists. And this isn't moral in any way, because a friend of mine who edited the book asked me, he said, well, if I'm a serial killer, can I use your system to like kill people, like, or something? And you could, but the purpose of the breath work is to connect you to your spirit, to who you really are, so that the intentions that come to you are clear. And then the energetic mind is chi, it's the space, it's imagination and creativity, the heart. So these are the 4 levels, and they go from spirit down to the earth. And I use animal movements that are thousands of years old that I learned in China to train these functions. And then the 4 regions, they go from your center, which I call the Dantian or the Hara or the 2nd chakra, which is your literal center in the body. And then a bigger center, a 2nd region of the self, which is a body region, and then an auric region, and then a transpersonal region, which is like right now we're in the transpersonal region. Like, how are we can't touch each other, but we hear each other. We're in a shared matrix. So every animal in Taoism, there's 5 elements. but there's also 10 animals, and all the animals have a spiritual intelligence. Taoists sort of believe that, like, they think of God as nature. So an animal is the quality of the divine, like the perfection of the divine. So, for example, in the visionary level of mind, it's the tiger. A tiger, I live next to the state park. There's a mountain lion in there. They can stalk me from 5 miles away. It knows I'm down here right now. Like the tiger can see in its inner eye, can put its intention out on top of its target from very far away, be invisible, and have already merged with it. And it's an animal that has past, present, future awareness. It has a tail for peripheral vision, and it crouches down into the past. It moves out into the future. So you practice these movements. I give them to people based on what they're working with. It's not linear. It's not like you do them one at a time. Like you could study this forever. So anyway, thanks for letting me yabber on about that.
No, it's good. It's good. Finally, like, there's one thing, and it's probably a strange one for you, but in acknowledgements, what I saw, there was a Jason Lester that you were acknowledging because sovereign business.
Yeah.
And basically the reason, like with my Awakening podcast, I talk about sovereignty a lot. And I'm just curious.
You got to get him on your podcast.
Exactly. But with you, what did you learn about that? Is that something that you've started?
Yeah. Well, you know, I have a newsletter almost every day, and I was just this last week, I was going to write about my relationship with Jason, and it's complicated. Jason was born a Mennonite. Do you know what those are? They're Mennonites, like they're those people in America. They were like Christians, but they don't use electricity, and they're still like horse and buggy even to this day. But anyway, he grew up that way. He's a genius. Incredible musician, was organ director in this big church in New York. Anyway, he had this kind of awakening. He's married. He has 10 children. None of them have ever gone to school. He believes that school trains slaves, and he was living in rural Kentucky, where his wife is a midwife, and she's a profound person too. I mean, she had 10 children. She's like trying to have more apparently now, and she's in her late 40s. And he had never been to the ocean to Hawaii, so he moved his entire family of 10 children to Hawaii just because he wanted to, and not because he's like a dad who, like, he wanted to watch his kids grow up, which most dads don't want to do. Like, he spends every day with his 10 children. They're brilliant, but he runs this business that helps. He used to be a copywriter, but he helps businesses who don't want to exist in the matrix in a normal way. And he'll work with done groups, but he's not, how do I say this? His morality is focused on people's agency and autonomy. He doesn't have a bank account. He doesn't use a social security number. He doesn't have credit cards. And some of his clients pay him millions of dollars. So when I met him during the pandemic, I just got tired of traveling. I stayed home. I kind of took a little axe to the side of my building. I just needed a break. I'd been traveling nonstop, and my partner was working with him to retool us as an online business, and I just sort of came along. He said I was like on the guru on the mountain. I only come down occasionally. That was his original idea for me. But when I got involved with him, I found myself, we talked every week, just learning. He was the first person I'd spoken to from when he wasn't in a spiritual world. He wasn't a spiritual teacher, but that he could really speak to who I am in a way that nobody could. And he could see me in a way. And actually, the trauma code, the name, I believe was his idea. He was saying, like, he'd been listening to me for like 2 years, and he said, your system's like a phone, like when you swipe the code, you open it up and then you can access it. And that was his idea, that there was this code that I was helping people unlock. And I've been doing it for 30 plus years and didn't even know that that's what I was doing. So I can't really sing his praises enough, but every time I talk to him, I feel joy. It's always interesting. He's the biggest weirdo you could ever possibly. I mean, he's got 10 children. He doesn't have a bank account. Every time he has to pay for something or do something, it's complicated. But he's willing to do it because he believes in his sovereignty, and he's dedicated his life to it. He's remarkable. So, sovereignbusiness.org. Yeah, I'll connect you with him if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Get him on.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah,
perfect. Listen, I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. You might let people know where they can find you.
Yeah. Oh, Effiji Breath, EFFIJI, breath.com, effijibreath.com, and you can click on the link for contact and just send me a message. It'll get to me. And also just say did this a month ago. There's a 3-minute video that you can do with me. It's free, and just do the breath work guided by me with music. If you want to just try Effiji Breath.
No, excellent. I'll make sure I put the links both on the audio and the video. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
So that's all for the meditation podcast. You'll find all our episodes on meditationpodcast.org. Be sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, share with your friends, and comment on what we discussed. We'd love to read your comments. Until next week, take care.
So I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. As mentioned at the start, you can find my 6 podcasts on roycollin.com or scan the QR code if you're looking to start a podcast or do a podcasting tour, help with that. Also, if you're looking for a virtual assistant, we also have that service. And you can help the show by visiting the store, supporting our sponsors, or making a donation. Until next week, take care.